Hi, welcome back to the Myth-Busting Neurodiverse Relationships podcast on YouTube. This episode has no video, audio only today, so enjoy listening along. Hello, welcome to the Myth-Busting Neurodiverse Relationships podcast. I'm Natalie Roberts and I'm here with my co-host Heather Parks. We've both been in our neurodiverse relationships and families for more than 25 years. We met 10 years ago when we were feeling really desperate and trying to solve a lot of issues in our relationship and our families. We've been journeying since then. We've found many more positive and hopeful ways to solve, resolve, repair, reconnect in those relationships and in our families, in our lives. And we now co-host also Loving Difference online, giving hope and a way forward for neurodiverse relationships. In this podcast, though, we're busting the myths about neurodiverse relationships, which we had when we started this journey, that we've realised aren't true, and that actually were preventing us from recovering and having the relationships with our partners and children that we wanted. So we want to dispel these myths and bring you hope that absolutely things can change. So whether you're out and about or comfy with a cuppa, let's dive into our next conversation. See you there.
Welcome to the Myth-Busting Neurodiverse Relationships podcast. I'm Heather Parks, and I've been navigating differences in my relationship and family for 25 years, along with my husband, Phil, and our 4 children. For much of this time, neurodiversity was unknown, and there were challenges and struggles for us all. I discovered new ways of navigating difference so that I can be true to myself and thrive in my neurodiverse family. I'm now an accredited somatic coach and nervous system educator, helping others to heal so they can be the best versions of themselves and thrive too.
Hi, I'm Natalie Roberts. I've been in a neurodiverse relationship and family with my husband, Pete, for 25 years. We discovered neurodiversity was a part of our story in 2014 when we were really struggling as a couple and family. Now we're thriving and enjoying life in ways that I just couldn't have imagined back then. I'm also an accredited relationship coach, supporting individuals and couples in neurodiverse relationships to reverse the impact of unknown neurodiversity and thrive in a relationship and a life that they dream of.
9 years ago, when Natalie and I were struggling most, we found much needed validation and understanding in the support groups and professional support we accessed. Sadly, though, we also experienced blaming and stuckness in many groups we joined, and some professional support that either made things worse or lacked insight into our lived experience or the much needed healing and solutions that could create sustainable change.
We were both working on reversing the impact of unknown neurodiversity and finding new ways to resolve complex, everyday relationship and family challenges without our partners involved. So we want you to know that you can change your whole experience by focusing on yourself and without needing to change anyone else. We also realise that this journey is about so much more than new or more knowledge.
Fast forward to 2018, we became the professionals we needed as accredited coaches so that we could support others with their own journey into this unknown territory. And in 2020, we created the community we needed in Loving Difference. Together, we now also host Revival Retreat, the online journey for flourishing life in your neurodiverse relationships, with a map, empowering resources, tools, and all the support you need to recover, create sustainable change, and be you in your neurodiverse relationship and in your life. Loving Difference and Revival Retreat are for anyone, whatever their neuroidentity. What we all have in common is wanting new ways to thrive in our neurodiverse relationships. Find out more at lovingdifference.net.
So in this podcast, we're busting the myths about neurodiverse relationships, which we had when we started this journey, that we've realised aren't true and that were preventing us from recovering and having the relationships with our partners and children that we wanted. We want to dispel these myths and bring you hope that absolutely things can change. So in today's episode, we're busting the myth that we were conned when we were dating and that our partner isn't really who we fell in love with. So whether you're out and about or comfy with a cuppa, let's dive into our next conversation. Whoa, it's a big one.
Yeah, we hear this a lot, don't we? And there's but we did. We we bought into this a lot, didn't we, when we first found
Huge.
out about neurodiversity, and we read a lot of stuff
I
around
can remember
this.
it was one of the first things I read in a book about how and it was that language. It was really you've been conned, or people sort of saying it feels like I've been conned, and the person I'm with isn't the person I dated, isn't who I fell in love with,
and they changed as soon
and
as
they
we were married.
changed, and not the same person, and so I feel conned. So I was like, okay, I need to feel conned. I think there was an element of, okay, that's the truth, and then I believed it. I really believed
it. Resonated because we
did,
could see that there were
see
certain things, so we could remember that we'd had this really exciting and fantastic time when we were dating, and then things seemed to go downhill fast.
Yeah. Well,
it felt like that was quite true then.
Yeah, it did feel true. So what did it, having that myth or having that belief, then what did it help? Did it help us go, now I know what that is, and now I feel so much better?
I think it was really damaging. I think it kept us all stuck. Yes. I think what it did do is create some kind of common enemy. So in support groups and stuff, you'd have this whole, lots of people feeling the same. So we had this kind of validation, and we felt lots of, oh yeah, me too. That was all happening, wasn't it, in those things? And I think it stacked up a load of resentment, kept me in some really yucky energy.
It certainly helped me to blame and to be able to
feel righteous,
place the reasons for why I was feeling how I was feeling, and why our relationship was how it was here. Like, this is why this is like this, because 15 years ago you did this. I think a lot of that was going on, and I sort of say that lightly now. It wasn't like that at the time. It was really, really, it felt like and I think partly maybe that is because the whole idea of being, think about it now. I mean, now it's like everywhere, isn't it? Being scammed or conned, or like those are all really
language,
horrible situations to be in, horrible feelings to have, that you've kind of been, I don't know, the phrase is like led down the garden path, and you're something that you thought it was, it isn't, and you can feel like oh my god, has it
because I had one of those I got conned by a fraud thing, and paid out some money. And I remember
feel really stupid.
You feel stupid. You feel like, just like, so violated. And
what did I miss? I can remember thinking, God, so I remember then you're looking for all the signs. Oh, the signs were there, but you kind of blinded me with all these, whatever was good. And anyway, it is a myth. Why are we saying it's a myth? Like, let's get really clear about some of the things that we sort of started to question this myth, I guess, didn't we? I mean, we always like to sort of, one thing we find really helpful is to find equivalence. So rather than kind of just be going, oh, well, that's all in that direction. I can remember
like to think about what we were doing.
How does that? Is there anything related? Is anything the same with us? And I can remember being on a course around the same time that we discovered neurodiversity. I was on a course, and one of the things that they were talking about, interestingly, was about masking, or everyone having a persona or a front or a mask to ourselves that we put out. So this was nothing to do with neurodiversity. This was not a course, anything to do with neurodiversity. But one of the things that they were highlighting was that we all tend to have a mask that we put on, that we show up with in order to...
I had about 20.
But that concept, interestingly, came towards me from a totally different direction. And I think that can often be the case, is that we're swimming around when we discover that neurodiversity is a part of our relationship and story, that we then are reading everything about neurodiversity. So masking is a big part of what we might be reading about. And again, generally applied to particular neuroidentities, when actually the idea of fronting, passing, masking, code switching, there's various words for this in all different contexts, and actually it's a universal thing to protect ourselves, to portray a particular version of who we are in order to get a particular outcome, or to hear a certain thing, or have a certain thing happen, or have someone feel a certain thing, or avoid a certain thing. Like, there's loads of reasons, or to feel safe, or perhaps in dating,
to feel not
to get someone,
to be a certain person
that we believe will get the person that we're looking for. So I think so I started to notice, so I think I just, on this whole dating thing, I just got curious and said, so did I do anything that might look like this when I was dating Pete? Did I do anything that would look like that? And I can remember things like, well, yeah, I definitely wore more makeup. And I definitely did that in other places to portray a certain thing. And then I didn't really wear makeup at home. And then I definitely wore particular outfits and clothes in the dating game. And I wanted to portray a particular way of being, or who I thought would be the right version of me to get the kind of person I wanted. And I really wanted to find someone. So, as you said, the motivation is quite high to work out who do I need to be. So
and
those
the
what were you doing? What do you remember?
I just remember also then we do that, and then I think the feedback loop that we get reinforces that, so we do it even more, don't we?
I mean, and these are big cultural norm things. The dating game is a game, so we are needing to participate in particular rituals, particular methods, particular ways. I mean, it's probably even more frightening these days, but
it's not just, I know I was also quite anxious.
Yeah.
So I was very nervous. Very nervous. So I drank quite a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
So a lot of our dates are involved quite a bit of alcohol. Yeah. And that,
in order that you would probably feel more relaxed and could speak.
The person that I wanted to be that wasn't nervous or like hesitant, but I could be confident and outgoing and just connecting in ways where I really could freeze.
I think
otherwise.
I can also remember joining in potentially with things that were not necessarily I can remember listening to Pete music that Pete liked, that I remember thinking, oh, it's not really my thing, but okay, let's listen to that because it's what you like, and that would be good for me if I want to have you. So I think that's just a really small thing I can remember doing. Or I think we, went to particular places that weren't necessarily my kind of place, but I think
bought the things that we chose the things whatever it is that we did.
You need to do, because that's about how we create belonging. Is I need to do something similar or to put on a certain thing that we think. So I think that's it was helpful to find the equivalence and just go, actually, if I look back, I can see how I did various of these things. And then as our life carried on, and then we had children, Pete already had a son, so we were a family immediately. And then I was in stepmom mode, and then I was in mum mode.
Relationship
dynamics, and then I'm in a different, I'm in a different role with that. So that brings some changes of its own. And I think it could go both ways, that we could feel like, hang on a minute, I don't know if this is who I signed up for. That's what I sort of feel like with, it's almost scam language, isn't it? What have you signed up for? And then finding that what you signed up for wasn't what you get. So you sign up for something and then they never deliver it. Or is that kind of culture and language that we're talking about in relation to people, remember? That I think what it tends to then do is it pulls us away. It's not going to support us to find the ways to move forward and reconnect. I think it takes us into quite unhealthy place, basically.
I was just going to add as well, because it made me think about the other way that we can kind of create that natural high. When we're dating, is all those like chemicals, it's like
they're all going up,
dopamine hit after dopamine
hit,
isn't it? Oxytocin.
Serotonin.
We've got all of that going on,
and here's the biology of that, isn't it? The physiology of that is that turns off your frontal, frontal cortex goes off, so your rational thinking is not joining in, and your radar inhibitions are down. And your radar is up for what the proof you want to find. This is also true. The proof you're wanting to find for who you're wanting, and therefore other information is kind of blocked out. So it's often not that some of these things weren't there, but there's literally the physiology sets you up to put those away. So I can one of the stories I always tell
is that you need to get
to find someone. So. And you've also got some quite clear, you will have some clarity or some level of who you're looking for, what kind of person, like those kinds of things. I can remember one particular thing, I always remember, is that I met Pete at some dance classes, which is quite hilarious now, but we were at some dance classes. And somebody had told him, you know, if you want to meet someone, why don't you go to dance classes? So he was doing it. And it's not necessarily a Pete thing, but with me, it is a thing. Like, so that's good. But one of the things Pete had was a business card. And I was very impressed by this business card, his role. And I was also very impressed that it had some different language on it, Chinese or it's something or other. And he was like, oh yeah, I traveled to Indonesia and I've been traveling with my work. And I was like, oh, this is very exciting. He sounds very adventurous. And, you know, this so to me, that one little clue of the business card on a second date when we exchanged numbers,
didn't you?
I made a whole picture of who this person was. And later, that's one of the things that was my radar was on for some certain things, probably quite unconsciously. It's only now I realize how potentially adventurous and how much I potentially like travel and things. But ultimately, actually, Pete was only doing it because of work, and it's his worst nightmare. But it was a good thing for me to notice that's what I was looking for, and I found what I was looking for, and we've got a radar on for those things. So we're not necessarily looking for the mundane and ordinary and some of the other stuff that we all come with. That's I think the important thing.
That reminds me as well that one of the things that I know that Phil was it was appealing to Phil is that I'd just come back from traveling. I'd just been off wandering, backpacking. He thought, oh, that's really cool. That's like someone's got to be really confident to do that and everything. But then remembering that, you know, we had very limited time before we moved in, had children, and all of that stopped, and we didn't go traveling for we didn't have any money to go traveling for ages. And then you think, well, that's kind of like,
so it didn't quite happen.
But that was nothing to do with dropping a mask or something. That's our circumstances changed. We and with that change came a load more stress and stacking and all of that other stuff. So, you know, and meanwhile, all those kind of lovely hormones have dropped too. So
so that is all normal everyone human condition, not neurodiversity,
not some intentional kind of hideous game.
No, absolutely not. The other thing I think that I started to use to support me having a different perspective and move forward was to sort of go back to what was I attracted to, so what was I looking for, and therefore what I found in Pete, which generally, once you're more comfortable in the relationship and those things are being delivered, we're now looking for more things that I could add on to that I think you could do, and then sort of find they're not there maybe, or like our expectations inside of the relationship go up, and all of our patterns and thoughts about what a relationship ultimately will look or feel like suddenly there. It's very different than when we're in the dating. So I decided I'd go back and think, well, what was I looking for, and also what was I attracted to, rather than where I am now. I'm focusing on what I haven't got, what I don't like, what you're not doing, what you didn't do, what you did that you're now not doing, all those kinds of things, which I recognized I probably was doing some of those things as well. So I was able to go back and think, I'd actually been engaged before meeting Pete. So I came out of a relationship that had various things that meant I'd ended quite a significant relationship. There were some things around financial security that I was looking for. Pete had a son and I was desperate to be a mum. I mean, like, there was things that I was looking for that I could go tick, tick, tick. And there was also then other things that I was attracted to. And I think you just tend to also, those get drowned out by all of the things that life then becomes challenging. And with unknown neurodiversity, remember we were traveling that for years, that has challenges that we didn't know we were in and we're going to have. So those are also part of what's going on, and what's maybe making life challenging for you and or your partner, and will have been challenging and or for them and or you before the relationship. And it's that in the dating game we may not have the awareness of, and then it suddenly appears and it's like, well, you didn't tell me about any of that, I didn't know any of that, but actually it was there before, but generally speaking we're not aware of it with us. Like, that's all stuff that we're not aware of, isn't it? And so we bring it in, like we talk about baggage, bring it there's a lovely little tell I remember from my coach training about relationships, where they would say, you show up in your relationship, you work on trying to be the best version of yourself. Okay, so you show up as that, like that's who you want to be, isn't it? When you're dating,
Yeah,
show up as the best version
absolutely.
of yourself. Hello, la 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 la.
It's
And then
easy to be that best version of yourself.
well, it's also temporary.
Yeah.
It's a temporary thing you're doing. And so you do all of that, and then you get into the relationship, and then you get into normal life and everyday life and all of the things that brings, and then you go, by the way, can I just I've got this bag, like this baggage, this big bag of stuff. Can I just get that just a minute? And you get this big bag, like, oh, and this is me too, and I've got all of this. And then you go,
I've got all of this.
I got one of them as well. Here's mine. And suddenly that's in the relationship as well. And that's what we don't have great tools, awareness of stuff to deal with that. Like we're just still hoping we're going to carry on in the oxytocin trance, and that's not the reality of relationships. And they're work, and they take energy and effort and all sorts of things.
It's something around knowing what we know about ourselves now, about sort of mundane, repetitive, all of those things.
Ordinary is a lot of life, isn't it?
Ordinary is hard. Ordinary stuff can be really hard to deal with, can't it?
Yeah,
you know,
especially when you've got other companions along for the ride, like anxiety and
stress,
difference, and ongoing stress and challenges and life events and children who need support and all sorts of other things that will have limited energy and capacity for.
And I think that's really important, isn't it? That things just really start stacking up quite fast. So should we sort of do a bit of conclusion there? So what would your final thoughts be that?
Yeah. So with all that in mind, then I guess the truth that we've realized on this myth is that we were putting on a front too when we were dating. We masked too. It's a normal and somewhat crazy part of the dating game that has us pretending to be someone to get someone. So knowing this, we were able to let go of loads of resentment. Resentment has messages in it, so we needed to look into that. But you can put some sort of stuff down and have a different way of thinking about all of that, which just helped us to start moving towards our partners, with support and more understanding about some things, and carefully and step by step. But it helped us to start moving towards our partners rather than further away, which is what that myth ultimately had us doing, which is just really the opposite of what we were wanting. Yeah,
it did. If this episode has resonated with you, subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening or watching to get notifications of future episodes. To dive deeper into all of this with professional coaching, resources, and all the support you need, join us in Love Indifference via www.loveindifference.net. And we'll be back here soon.